So welcome back to the Part-Time Pundits. It has been a little while, but we are back with none other than Omar Al Duri, someone who's essentially done it all in the world of football here in the UAE. Everything from going to the World Cup with an under-20 side to coaching a women's team and, of course, hosting his own radio show. Stay tuned. This episode is a cracker.
Well, firstly, thank you for the opportunity. I know we've been going back and forth on Insta to try and connect, but I really appreciate having a good chat with good people. That's the first thing. And then it's football as well. So how long do we have? That's the first part. The second part is actually the halftime show came about because I was a guest on Pulse 95 radio during the World Cup. They asked me to come on as a guest one week. And because I'd been to the World Cup with Ghana as a coach, so they said, "Oh, we'd like to get your views on what's happening at the moment." And then it became like, "Can you come on next week?" And I thought, oh, that's really nice. They've asked me twice, and then it became, "Can we come on the week after?" And then I thought, okay, this is getting really nice, but I don't know, like going to Sharjah. I live in Dubai, so going to Sharjah like 3 times a week. I was interested. And then I went to London and they said, "Oh, the final's going to be on. Would you do a show from London?" And I thought, wow, okay, I'd love to. And I did that, finished all that, came back to Dubai. And then they said, the boss wants to speak to you. He doesn't get it. He knows you're Arabic, but you've got a British accent and people like you. So I was like, I don't know what to make of that. And I said, "Oh, thank you." And he said, "Have you ever considered your own show?" And I thought, no. Honestly, I've never would have thought of that. And then he went, "Well, if you would do a show, what would you do?" And they really gassed me up and thought, made me feel like I was actually something. And then they never called me. Absolutely never called me. And then I spoke to my wife and I was like, "Maria." So they said they liked me, and then they want me to come up with an idea, a concept for the show. So maybe I'll do that and send it to them and see what comes out. And so, I said to Maria, "What should I call it?" And she's like, "What time slot have they given you?" And I said, if they would, probably 3 o'clock. And I said, no one really listens to radio at 3 o'clock. So that's like halfway through the day. And then she said, "Oh, halfway, half time." And then I came about that. We went and sent everything into them. Story short, 1 month passed, they didn't call me. 3 months passed, they didn't call me. I reached out after 3 months and said, "Guys, do you remember me? You guys said that I was all right." Then 6 months later, nothing. And then 9 months later, I was like, "I'm still here," like waving, and nothing. But then they said, "Listen, we do like you. We need to have the budget to have you on. And we think that you'd add value to the show," because I said to them, I didn't want to do a sports show based on just headlines and news. I wanted to do something like in the locker room, behind the scenes, the psychology part, the mental health part, the emotional intelligence when it comes to the game, and a few things that I've kind of picked up on and people I've met as well. So eventually they said, after 9 months, they said, come on over for a month of training. And I thought, training means free. And I was like, I'm not sure if that, and I said to my wife, it don't make sense. Like, after all that, I'm going to go train. And I thought, you know what, just bite the bullet, go and see what you can learn. There's a lot of technology behind it, which I really appreciate and value now. And they taught me a lot of stuff there. And then did my first show and absolutely sucked. On my first show, I was rubbish. And I came out of the episode and I had a guest as well. And I came out of the show and went into the other studio, just sat there with my head in my hands and just went, yeah, I'm not cut out for this. And then Anna Schofield, who's the voice of Emirates, she's come in. She goes, "Oh, Omar, what's wrong with you?" And I said, that interview was whack. And she was like, "Why?" I said, the guest was really good. That's why I'm really pissed off with myself, because the guest was wicked, man. And he was saying some good stuff, but I didn't know how to lift the energy. I didn't know about the sound. I didn't know about the tone. I didn't know about any of that stuff. And she said, "Listen, it's good that you got out of the way. We all get that." And I said, "I've had 15 years of experience and you're going to just try and gas me up and make me feel better." I was rubbish. And she went, "Honestly, Omar, if you don't have it, you don't have it." And I'm thankful to say I'm 232 episodes in and I've had some decent guys on. So Thank God it's worked out all right.
That's absolutely incredible. That's you know, from having no experience to sort of just going directly into it, and now look at where you are. You know, I've listened to it a few times. Again, it's at 3 p.m, so it's not exactly the time that I'm in the car or listening to radio. But when I do catch it, it's pretty good and pretty informative.
I must say, mate, I tune in on Instagram. When you go Instagram live, that's when I tune in. If anything, whenever it kind of pops up on my feed that you're going live, I'm like, let me see what Omar's up to today. So just kind of tune in and see what you're talking about. So yeah, I think it's great, and the fact that you can interact with people via Insta live, I think it adds another dimension to the show, right?
Yeah, it adds a dimension because I'm the only one who doesn't have a co-host. And so the tough thing about that was, so with the others, they can bounce off each other. If I don't have a guest, then I was thinking, when I first came on, I said, oh, guys, how do you interact with people? And they said, oh, you know, through your guests and stuff, or your co-hosts. And I said, well, I don't really have someone. They said, we need to find a female version of you. So we were out for the lookout. We're trying to find someone who'd come in at the time. And then I suggested one of my, because I used to coach the UAE women's national team. So I suggested one of my players that was there and said, why don't we bring her on board? And I thought to myself, you know what, Omar, the problem with that is it took you 9 months to get the job. How long is it going to take to get her in? You know, and then I said, so do you guys stream? And there was this weird when I said that at the time. And I went, did I step on anyone's toes when I said that? And they went, no, but you could stream. And I went, all right, then I'll stream then. So then I started, and then you know what? You lot add so much value to what's happening, because there's something that might happen or someone that might say something that could trigger off a part of the subject that a lot of people are thinking about. Yeah. And so when I'm looking at the main screen, the note screen, the beds, the keys, the sweepers, and the Instagram live, and I see someone put something up, I will make sure I will bring that up, because they've spent time in commenting or suggesting something. And so then from then on, it's just been something that I don't think I've ever gone in 200, I've never thought this before, but in 232 episodes, I don't think I've ever not gone on Instagram live, ever. Okay. And I've got the director of TikTok on my backside. He doesn't want me being on Instagram, he wants me being on TikTok. But it's really overwhelming. I don't know if you guys have experience. It's really overwhelming. Yeah, the amount of comments and stuff that happen on TikTok.
It's a great platform for that sort of stuff, man. I mean, the views, the comments. You know, we put stuff up on our TikTok about Saudi Arabian football kits, and all of a sudden in the comments, you've just got people from rival teams sort of fighting, and we're just sat back going, we didn't plan for this. We're just kind of looking at what kits look nice. And then you've got, no, do this one and do that one and, you know, do this team. And then we're like, all right. You know, so you do get a lot of engagement. You do get a lot of views. I know the platform cares a lot less about the sort of aesthetic of it. They just want content. They just want constant content, no matter what you do. They're like, as long as you're producing content, as long as you're getting it up on the channel, we don't care. We'll push it, right? Whereas Instagram, you've got to have a nicely designed feed. You've kind of got to do things with the algorithm and all that sort of stuff. TikTok at the moment is just kind of like, do your worst, you know, and we'll make it happen. So it is.
And it's hard to kind of to regulate. Maybe I got used to just a good select handful of people around the world who, not that many, but they are regulars. So Florence, New York, it is stupid o'clock over there. He'll come in. Masoud's in India. Shaymat's in Tunisia. Some of the boys are in London. So I'm okay with like maybe 15, 20 people who engage. When I'm looking at it, my eyes, and you're right about Saudi, because I just keep seeing Saudi like emojis and flags, and then say hi, and I'm thinking, hi, and then to say after that. But with Insta, I think it's more like I know those people and they know me, and you get the banter. Like a lot of the United fans that will come in, obviously when they've won, like tomorrow, they'll definitely be in this.
Yeah.
And they'll say, what do you think of Oli? And are we going to win the league in the World Cup? And then I have to respond to that. so it's good banter though. It's good fun.
You said it. I mean, you're from London. You know, you've clearly got the British accent. But you're from the Middle East, right? Or you're from an Arab country. Like, how, you know, put yourself on TikTok. I think you'd explode, mate. I think you'd you know, because we get comments from fans and stuff like that we're talking, why are these white boys talking about Middle East
Arabic
Saudi
football.
Why do they care, Arabic football, and they're doing it in English. Like, what the hell is this? So it kind of like piques their interest a wee bit, and I think you'd have a really good angle on TikTok for that, I think.
Well, that's what a friend of mine, who's the director's been like really like cussing me, like not even being nice, like just like you need to get on that, and I'm just like, listen, I said to him, yes, likes and views and everything is great, but if I'm getting 10 people or 100 people and the 10 people are engaging with me, I know that's not a good business mind, but for me, I want kind of stability in that sense as well. When I saw the other day, it was like 11,000 or something. I was a bit like, whoa, like, and a lot of it was, where are you from? Say hi from Kuwait, say hi from Saudi. And I love that, because by the way, a lot of people don't know, I'm not just from one country. So I'm a mixture. So my dad's Iraqi, my mom is Saudi. I've never been to Iraq. I was born and raised in London. So there's a lot in me. And so I have a lot of love to give to those people who come from all around the world. I love that. And I worked in Africa. So that just tells you it's scattered. Yeah. But for me, it's the engagement that I want, where if I'm talking sports and I'm spending a lot of time, and you guys would know this more than anything, you spend time on prep, you spend time on, watching the screen and seeing what happened and going on Twitter and going on this. And then in the end, you've got a short amount of time to get that out there. So there are a lot of things where sometimes, and you come off and you go, did I mention? And then you watch it back and you go, yeah, I missed that one out. Whilst when you have someone there, they're like, by the way, what about Pep Guardiola's jumper? Why is he wearing open arms on his jumper? Yeah. And then you go, oh, well, it's because he's supporting the charity case in Catalonia. And you would have had it in your mind and said, pretty drab game. Yeah. But by the way, that, and that's how it would stem off. So there's many factors like that where I'm still getting used to it. And he messaged me actually about a couple of hours ago when I was at the gym, and he goes, don't forget tomorrow, you're on live at 3. I said, well, I won't forget because I have a show that I have to do. So I probably won't forget that, but I will switch it on and let's go,
So you probably need like 2-3 phones now, just kind of around you, streaming all this content to different platforms, right?
Yeah, there's 2 phones and 3 screens. So it's a bit new for me, to be honest.
Wow. That's hardcore. That's hardcore. If I may, I want to pick up on one of the points you made earlier, which is extremely intriguing. You said you coached Ghana at the World Cup. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so in 2015, I was recognized as Coach of the Year when I was out here in Dubai, and I was more regarding conditioning and program and strength training and all that kind of stuff. And I was doing a lot of work after that with developing women's football. So I got recognized out here for that, and then I got a call from an agent who said to me, "Hey, listen, we've heard about you, etc. This and that. What are you doing at the moment?" And I said, well, I'm currently a facility that I run, and I'm developing a women's football team. He said, all right, great, yeah, that's all good and everything. But what about tomorrow? And I said, tomorrow I'm probably going to go into work, same as usual, nothing really different. Well, you might get a call from Avram Grant, and he's head coach of the senior Ghana team, but they're looking for someone to add to their staff, the coaching staff for the under 20. And you should have been in Turkey last week for the pre-tournament. And here I am thinking, okay, so are you serious or are you joking? Because this is not funny. And he went, no, I'm serious. You'll get a call from him tomorrow. And I thought, are you sure? And he said, yeah, you will. Just tell him what you can do. So if anyone asks you that ever in your life, everything's going to go blank. And I had absolutely no idea what I was going to say to him or if he was going to call. Next day he calls on the phone. It's Avram Grant, and I'm thinking, wow, okay. And he's like, yeah, Omar, so we've heard about you. Great. Can you come out to Turkey? And then I thought, he missed the part where he was going to ask me, what can I do? But I didn't want to say anything. So I just went, so what do you guys need exactly? And he said, well, we need someone to program all the training for the international team of the under 20 Ghana squad. And I thought, oh, that's exciting. Would love that. And I was doing my coaching badges since I was like 18. So for me, this was my only kind of way. And then I thought, there's a lot of stereotypes about working in Africa. There's a lot of stereotypes about the current situation. Do I want to leave everything here, pack up? At the time, I was running my facility, which I lost subsequently later on. But the point is, like, do I just leave everything and head off to Africa? First to Turkey, then Africa. Because the African Nations Cup under 20s was in Senegal. So then I was like, it don't make sense, but I'm not going to get this chance again. So you know what? I'm off. And so everyone was like, what? You're going to leave? And I said, yeah. I'm going to go to Senegal. I missed the Turkey trip. I'm going to go to Senegal and I'm going to meet these guys and I'm going to have to get them ready for the African Nations Cup under 20s in 2 weeks. Because it was subsequently 6 weeks before with Turkey.
No pressure, right?
Yeah. I went down to Senegal and wow, Senegal is a beautiful place, which humbles you to say the least. Because I got there and it was like an hour and a half drive from the airport and I'm seeing like just a completely different world to what we see every single day. And I'm loving it. And I'm seeing animals, cars barely making some sounds I've never heard before. And that's got me to the hotel. And then all of a sudden it's like I'm looking around and where are the players? Like, where's the staff? And then all of a sudden you see this barrage of players come out. And they probably thought I was like the cab driver or something. Because when they came out, they're like, what's he doing here? And obviously I don't think they were informed. And then Avram came out about a couple of hours later and said, right, let's have a seat. We had a seat. And he said, right, so what are your plans? And I said, well, I'm here now. I can't really go back. I'm here and I'm committed. You tell me what you need and I'll deliver. I've had over 15 years experience, in the game and in fitness. And I'm happy to add the technical side if you need me, or if you want me to go more just on the strength and conditioning, I'm happy to do that as well. And they said, right, okay, you're going to meet Salas. Salas is your manager for under 20s. And he's a legend in Ghana. So you're going to go with him and whatever he says, you're going to do, and you're going to add something to him and I'll see you later. And that was basically that. So then I've scratched my head and I thought, what am I going to do? But you know what? I can do this. It's a bit mad, but I'm here now. I've said I've always wanted the opportunity. I've got it now. I need to show what I can do. It's as simple as that. And Silas came out and he goes, Omar, first day of training, before you meet the players, what you're going to do? And I said, right, I need to see where they're at. So I'm going to do an assessment. He goes, how long do you need? I said, I need half an hour. And he went, we have an hour and a half normally. I said, Coach, with all due respect, I need half an hour with them. And that will tell me a lot, not just physically, but mentally about what they can do. That night, 85% of the players were in the treatment room getting rubs and massages that night. And I destroyed them. And the way they looked at me when I came in was really, now that I know how they are, was really like, what are you going to do for us? Like, what are you doing here? Who do you know, basically? That was kind of like the vision I got from it. And then next day, they were all walking with a swag because their legs were so heavy. And there was a respect between us. And then they embraced me like I was Ghanaian.
Yeah.
And that was the most beautiful thing in seeing 65% of those players still played in Ghana. The others played in Europe and stuff, but they're up and coming players. Some of them have got endorsement deals and never dealt with anything in their life. So they don't know who to trust, who not. Then you got this Arab guy that comes with an accent in the middle of their camp. And they're thinking, what is he going to do? So we built up something really special in the African Nations Cup. We got bronze that tournament, which for the World Cup, which was then going to be in New Zealand. And so we had a couple of run-ins, as you do in the camp. But saying that, I grew very close to those players, and they became my players, and I became one of their coaches. And the assistant manager, Yao Preku, used to play at Anderlecht. He was the modern type of coach. So you had the old school coach in Salas and the modern type coach in the assistant. And me and him got on very well. The only bad thing about him is he was a United fan. But apart from that, he was a lovely guy. And we would wind each other up all the time. And he recognized that I had a love for the game that was far beyond a job. Because I always say, if you can picture what you're doing for a living for free, then you're in the right place. You know, and that was how I saw it, because as far as I was concerned, I was working for free at that time. I was hoping to get paid, but you never know. And I didn't see that, and I can say this now because the contract's over, but I didn't see that till the World Cup in a different campaign.
Wow.
So that when I came back and the UAE were calling me a UAE specialist when I've been here 10 years and no one even looked my way. And then the African media were saying, we need this guy to come back because he made a positive influence on the players mentally. So that was nice. But I can't turn around and say, guys, they get paid. Because that makes me look like he's only there for the money, when in truth, if I was, and no disrespect to any team in Africa, you're going to ask for that first before you come out. And I have never had the best business mind anyway. I was just following what I love doing. So I ended up there in Senegal with them, finished third, had a great experience, came back completely a different person when it comes to the football side of things, because I'd seen something that I'd never seen before. And then the World Cup was on another level, because then you get to see players that we're watching now.
Yeah.
In your hotel, in that city that you're in, playing the qualification. So there were so many factors, hence why you probably see where that one there. That one is from the actual. So Puma used to give us boots, and I was never going to wear the pink ones. So the boys actually signed. Every one of them signed it for me, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to wear that. I'm gonna end up keeping that, and I've kept it in this box, and it's because it's pink, it stands out. But I've never ever touched that because it means so much to me on those boots.
Have any of them been in Europe? I mean, like those players that you worked with in Ghana. Any sort of notable names that went on to do quite well?
Yeah, the thing is, they did well, but they did well in different leagues. So you had the Mexican league. So Clifford Abuaji basically got second best player in the under 17 World Cup, and Pogba was first.
Wow.
Okay. And also when Pogba played against him, because we were doing our homework, he said he was awful to play against, which was amazing because Clifford's like 5'5". So he was so skillful and a complete. So basically, you guys are old school heads. If you can picture a Janino Middlesbrough, right, type of player, but with the creativity and the smartness of a Zola, mesh them in one, because he played the 10, he played the 8, he could play in the front 3, and he changed everything. When he passed the ball, it made a sound. It was just amazing. So he was my favorite. Not my favorite, I can't say that because I had a couple favorites, but he was one of my favorite players for his impact. Why he didn't make it, like in one of the teams now, I can tell you now that he, maybe not the top 10, but he would definitely get into the bottom half of the league, the championship definitely, France, Belgium, and I would even say Holland. And you know how the level of Holland technically is very high. He was the standout in a lot of those players, but he never made it. Kingsley Forbes at Granada. Yao Preku was at Lille for a bit. He was at City as well. Yao Yaboa, sorry, he was at City as well. Salzburg, Red Bull Salzburg. You've got Samuel Tete's there. Benjamin Tete is playing in so I speak to quite a few of them at the moment, but Clifford Abuaji was the guy. When I watched him in training, there's times where I thought, wow. And I've seen a lot, and again, I was just thinking, this guy's on another level.
Yeah. I mean, times seem to have changed now. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember mid-90s, there was a Ghanaian called Neil Lamptey.
Yeah.
And he did really well for Ghana's sort of youth team. I think they did really well in the World Cup, similar to your guy there. And he got signed by Aston Villa. I think it was Ron Atkinson that brought him over. And, he was meant to be literally setting the world on fire. But, he just made wrong decisions, couldn't adapt to playing over in Europe, and it just kind of didn't work out for him. And there's always this kind of, yes, you might see in that World Cup that you were at some of those players killing it in Europe right now, but a good proportion of them, don't make it. Nothing comes of it. And either they make bad decisions or injuries catch up with them, or they just simply don't develop. They just simply get unlucky. And it's fascinating to look back at these World Cups, and you will see some of the players like, wow, I can't believe I saw him in the flesh. Pogba, for example, now look what he's doing at United and stuff like that. But often these golden ball winners at these tournaments, when you look back, silver ball, golden ball, they sort of fall off the radar in a few years.
Yeah, they peak at the younger World Cups, and then you don't really hear from them again. Yeah.
We had back, remember 2003, the World Youth Championships, Ismail Matar, won the golden ball, and he was, I mean, for local football, he still is sort of a legend and things like that. I remember people saying, he's the next big thing. He's going to Europe. AC Milan were rumored to be interested in him after that tournament, and he was going to set the world on fire. Kind of didn't really do much, fizzled out and stayed in the UAE, but looked absolutely incredible on fire in that tournament. So yeah, I mean, I was just really interested in Ghana because I wanted to see if any of them did. And you said they had decent careers, they had okay moves, but the main guy that you said, didn't really quite get there, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: we played against Argentina and in the World Cup, and the Argentina team were top 2 to win it at the time, and they were playing a 3-5-2, and in that team you had Diego Simeone's son, who was top scorer coming into that, and you had Correa from Atletico, again another player, and I remember, and I don't know, maybe if we put as much focus on Argentina as we did in the other teams, we might have beaten the other teams, but we beat Argentina. We were 3-0 up in the first half, and we ended up winning 3-2. But it was a really embarrassing clip of me on Insta celebrating on the touchline, which you always say please don't. And then they caught me celebrating because the assistant manager had knocked on my room like a couple of days before, and I had like these papers because we don't share, coaches don't share the rooms, so I had these papers of like 12 different scenarios in coming up to this game, and Correa was in there, and obviously I'd seen a little bit of him at the time. This was 2015. I'd seen a little bit of him at the time, so he'd come in and he'd seen, like, it was almost like crazy, where he was like, he didn't say I was crazy, but he looked and he saw, what are those papers on the desk? And I didn't want to sound shady, so I just went, oh, I mean, if you want to see them, you can see them. Come in. So he came in and he had a look and he just looked at me like really weird. Yeah, you spent time on this. And I said, yeah. And I thought he was going to say, that's just silly. And then he went, can I have a look? And I said, yeah, man. And I just like crunched them all together and just gave it to him. I said, it doesn't have to come from me. I mean, if you can have a look yourself. And he had a look. So when we actually scored against him and Benjamin Tete scored the goal, who I was sitting down with, if you rewind time, in Senegal, showing him clips of Ian Wright. We were talking about movement, and I said, so you're physically more adept than this guy. But this guy, Ian Wright, can shoot with his left, his right, he can chip, he can head, do all sorts of stuff. And regardless of his size, he always causes a problem in between the right back and the centre back, or the left back and the left centre back. He'll always find somewhere in there to cut in, whether it's his right foot or left foot, but he's always moving. If you're facing me and your back is towards goal, you still have to turn. We haven't got that kind of time. So if you're actually in line with your midfield and you can still see the goalkeeper, then that is the first part of how we're going to get you to be in a position further up. Because if you come and get the ball and you go into that now false number 9, which you talk about a lot, I don't like that term, because the false takes away a lot of that meaning. So you don't give the credit to the player that's actually doing two people's jobs, rather than calling him a false number 9. He's actually doing a 10, 9, and an 8. But we call it a false number 9, and I never liked that. So I said, if you can watch this guy, and I showed him clips that time, and now you fast forward and he just scored against Argentina. So now that clip, and I'll share it with you afterwards, is when he scored, he's beaten one of the players, and I've literally forgotten myself. We're not allowed off the bench, and I'm running that way, and the doctor's running this way, so someone's got to jump. Now it's me. So I've jumped up, and he's caught me, and then my cousin sent me a clip from Egypt and gone, "We're just on FIFA celebrating like I'm man. Like, you can't be doing that." And it was, but you could see the happiness in my face because it was Benjamin Tete, because it was him. And look how far he wasn't going to get called up to the World Cup, and he just got a Nike deal. And this is where like the emotional part as a coach comes in, where you now want these kids, or now men, to do well. So when they've done this changes life to score. Because whatever happens, he scored against Argentina, and we beat them. Yeah. And no one expected it. So all of a sudden, all those doubters that were doubting him, it's like they're doubting me. So you're in another, like, you know, I never had the pleasure of playing at the Premier League, for example, or Champions League. I've never had that honor of doing that. But when you start to invest in players and as a coach, you become that person that if you're a father, they say, well, that's because it's your son or your daughter. If you know, but when you're a coach and you don't have any kids, and that guy has scored, he might not remember you in 10 years' time, but at that moment there, he scored. You're on a different planet. You can't see anyone else. So when you see my face, and I had at that time, I was facing a lot of mental health issues back home, and I was lucky to even have my passport. That's how bad it was. And now we've scored against Argentina. Like it's mind blowing, and they're to win it. And these players that a lot of people say, we love their spirit, we love their character, they got flavor. They can play as well. And that's why whenever we got to the stadium, everyone loved watching Ghana come into the dressing room. And I snuck my GoPro in there once, and I was filming, because we do a dance from the coach. It's quite quiet on the way there. We'd never be able to play music. We'd have to create it. So when we actually got to the stadium, the levels would go higher. So everyone's sound just starts to get louder. And when I first saw it in the AFCON, I'm like, this is cool. But when I got to the World Cup with them, I'm like, no, this is what we need to do. Yeah. So I snuck my GoPro.
Right. Mental health, that's just kind of getting people in that zone, right? The game.
Yes.
And it's flow, right? So it's not like rigid and it's not stiff. It's something where someone will have, you know, the clingers.
Yeah.
So they have the clinger, and that's normally Clifford, the smallest one. And you'd have different people get involved until we got to the changing room. And then all of a sudden, the levels would go so high that the opposing team must be thinking, why are they celebrating? We haven't started the game yet. But we lifted such a point where by the time the head coach would come in, everyone's just grounded again. everyone's now ready, switched on, and then we'd start.
See, do we think that's coming out of the modern game a little bit? You know, I love that they come out the coach, they're all singing and dancing. They're characters, you know, but they love it. They're in it for, you know, for all of that and getting into the zone. You see the professional players kind of get off the bus. Now, I remember it was in the World Cup when Ghana, I think it was 2010 in South Africa, when you know they would come off the bus and sort of be all happy. I think they'd go gambling at night, and they just kind of had fun with it, you know, and they didn't really take it too seriously, or they did, but you know, they kind of had fun around the whole event. And you look nowadays at sort of footballers getting off the bus, and they've all just sort of got their headphones on, and they're all sort of focused in their own way, holding their man bags and whatever, getting off the bus. And it's football's losing that kind of vibe. I mean, I love to hear that there are still teams out there, in this day and age, just having a bit of fun with it and getting off the bus and just being one.
Just to your point there, Dar, I think what makes a difference is that it's culturally it's accepted, right? So it's expected of the team, right? So as they're approaching, everyone knows, right, guys, we've got to get psyched up. So everyone's, let's do what comes naturally to us. Let's make that beat. Let's kind of get that psyche up, right? But I think that's only capable at kind of the World Cup or the AFCON, or because if you're looking at club level, like you said, everyone's coming from different parts of the world, and everyone's got their own kind of methodologies for focus and maybe different cultural kind of backgrounds and upbringings and whatnot. So I think it's that, and then I also think, of course, at the bigger clubs, they're all brands in their own right. Neymar is a brand, Mbappe is a brand, so they have to kind of be true to their brand, which means focus, do it my way, and then they kind of go from there. So yeah, to your point, I think it has lost a bit of that, but I don't think you'd ever have that kind of aspect in club football anyway. I think it's more for national teams. Correct me if
I think that's a good point what you're making, but I also think it's the coach's responsibility to embed their ethos on when to have fun and when to be serious. I was speaking to my assessor at the FA 2 days ago. I had them on the show, and it was actually the longest show I've had ever. I'm supposed to have 4 segments of 6 minutes, about 24 minutes of talk time, plus adverts, commercials, news, and the prayer time. Probably had to skip like so much of that, because what Pete was telling me he was saying people are just not having fun anymore. Yeah, it's just not fun anymore. And it's something else that happened when I first got there, because I was in that professional mindset that I need to set everything up before the team come on the pitch. So I'm there, cones out, doing this before everyone kind of walks over. And then the head coach said, "What are you doing?" "No, I'm setting up before everyone comes on the pitch because I don't want to be late." And I'm thinking, time, efficiency, I've got to be professional, I'm not Ghanaian, all these things, the first ever practice. And he's gone, no, we pray. And it didn't matter what religion you were, but they would all get you in a circle. You would all hold hands. One person would say a prayer and everyone else would say amen.
Yeah.
Then everyone starts dancing. I swear. And I think it's for me.
I love that.
What's going to happen? so I'm about to go out and break the circle and go back to the cones, and you just see someone just tug me back. He's like, "Wait." And one person would do the chant, the rest of people would carry on the song if you knew it, and you would go in a circle, and once you're done with the circle, maybe a couple of spins, then you disintegrate, you clap it off, and then you start the session. So I didn't know that. Yeah. But going back to your point, I think it's the coach's ethos to be able to create the atmosphere, which some might say that Pep, for example, is overcomplicates sometimes and takes away that's why sustainability wise people argue that he can't keep the players switched on 24/7 like he wants them to over a 3 to 6 year period, because he's so demanding. Whilst if you look at Klopp, he's more on the lines of everyone gets a hug, it's a humanitarian kind of approach rather than an authoritarian approach, which we've studied as well. So everyone has their own style. And I asked Pete, actually, because I like his opinion. I said, well, what do you think of coaches like Sean Dyche, for example? What's your opinion on that? Would he do, is that whole philosophy thing real? Or do they only handle with the players they have in front of them, because there's a very short lifespan in the game? I said, well, if Sean Dyche was managing at Everton, would they still play like Burnley? That was kind of like my question to him. And even he was like, well, that's a good question. Well, I know, I asked it. So it's just like, that's the whole point of asking about what the philosophy is, what the strategy is. What kind of coach are you, and what do you expect? Tuchel said something really smart. He said, I'm not going to tell Neymar what to do when he's in the final third. It doesn't make sense. But then again, what are you going to tell Neymar? Because it's Neymar, like you said, Ted, he's a brand, right? That is what you mentioned, like these guys, when they do come off, it is very much headphones on, man bag, look down so you don't have to sign any autographs.
Yeah.
I saw that live when we were out on different teams. But I wasn't anything like those players, but I always made eye contact. Because I was that fan. So from the fans' perspective, I would look and I would never ever, and I think the only person I would probably approach is Ian Wright, but I'd never ever approached a footballer, and I could probably tell you 9 out of 10 times, by the way, that's whoever. And my wife's always with me, she goes, why don't we say something? I said, well, what am I going to say to him? And the first question fans ask is, are you Paul Pogba? It probably is. It probably is. So I never wanted to be that guy, but I would always watch and see the body language. And I'd always study and see, do they make eye contact with the fans? Does it have to be a kid for them to speak to them? Is it someone that is approachable? And that's why, I even saw one of my favorites ever, and that's the only time I was starstruck, was Zidane when he was playing at Madrid, and I saw him in Dubai, and he looked like he was levitating. Like he was walking towards me, and I knew he was going to be there. I just walked out the way because I didn't want to ruin that perception of one of, if not the all-time favorite footballer of mine, where he would ruin what I've grown up watching as a fan, before a player, before a coach. I never wanted him to ruin it. So I always said, Omar, no matter what footballer you see or how you meet them or when you meet them, I've had some of them on the show. I've trained some of them on a one-on-one basis, but I've never ever gone up to someone and said something like, are you Paul Pogba? Because for me, it wouldn't give me any value. But if I had a chance to ask them questions, then I'll be like, that adds something to my experience.
Mate, that's a great story and a great little anecdote. Funny you say that though, because the other day I was running down Kite Beach. It was early morning. It was a Friday morning, I think like 8 o'clock. And as I'm running, I look up and there's Michael Silvestre running past me. And I went, oh, Silvestre. And then he just kept running. And I just said, I looked back and he didn't bother. So I just kept running. And I was like, oh, Ted, you're an idiot. Why did you even kind of gesture? To your point, yeah, you're right. You do kind of get caught. You're like, oh, isn't that, aren't you, whoever? Yeah, and it's weird how that happens. But I mean, I just did it instinctively. Oh my God, Michael Silvestre. And he just head down, just kept running. I was like, okay, done. And I just ran off the other way. No, crazy. But I know what you mean.
It happened to me once on the Palm. I was walking outside and I saw a guy and waved at him thinking it was Alvaro Negredo. I had to double take and just make sure. So I went up to him, you're Alvaro Negredo, right? And he went, yeah. Sorry, make sure. Got a picture of him and then went on my way. So sound guy, really, really good guy.
God bless him. Maradona. I used to coach the team that his wife played for, and he never used to sit on the same side as where the bench was. He used to take a chair and go to the other side and watch the game from there. And it took him like about 10 minutes to get there, but he wanted to be in peace. So I have his boots here as well. I have him signed here, and I've never gone and spoken to him. And my cousin idolizes Maradona. He says to me, Omar, if I could ever just kick a ball with someone, it would be Maradona. And I used to train his wife, and his wife didn't speak English. And at that time, things were a bit tricky with them because you had to treat them normal, but her husband's Maradona. so there's nothing normal. I mean, even as a coach, I always said, I'm not going to be intimidated. But I'll be in awe of a lot of players and coaches. But I'll never be intimidated. I'll show at least that I'm not. And so I had to bring an iPad, and because he's on the other side, he can't see what I'm doing. And I used to try and show her things that I wanted her to do because she didn't speak English. And as much as I say, Rocio, stop cutting into your left foot, use your right side, she won't understand what I'm saying. And we only have like 90 minutes. So I'd show her clips of thing, and I just see him looking in the corner of his eye going, what's he showing her on his iPad? So it comes down to that, where I never spoke to him, and once a long time ago, and to be fair, he always gave a lot of time for a lot of people. But one of my players went to ask him for a photo, and it's probably the only time he said no. And she even came up to me and she goes, I said no. But she said to me, Coach, shall we all take the players and go take a picture with him? And I said, if you want to grab a, this is exactly why, yeah? If you want to grab a picture, go and ask. I'm sure he'll say yes. So she's gone. She's come back. She called. She said no. I went, listen, don't worry about it. Maybe he's not in a good mood stuff. And 5 minutes later, someone asked him, and he said yes. And so this is what I mean. Like catching them at the wrong time can ruin someone's experience of that person.
Yeah.
And with all these players that we meet, what I have realized of being in the game is they're just like us. Regardless of all the money and the fame, deep down, they probably don't know what it's like to be normal, because they're so used to what's on social media, what's on TV, what's being said, what's in the articles, what's online. So they forget. And I think with him especially, and some of the other players I've met as well, it's hard to normalize them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you said you mentioned that you were coaching, Maradona's wife. How did that come about? What team was that actually that you were looking after? Yeah,
so before I coached the national team, I was coaching many of these like amateur women's teams, 7-a-side. Okay. I had my own one as well. But when it came down to 11-a-side, you had to be registered. And one of the teams called Phoenix at the time, they had a lot of expats that were playing there. And so the captain was like, listen, we'd love for you to come on board, and would you do some coaching for us? And, it's free, it wasn't like I'm getting paid for it. But in my head, it's like, I need to keep practicing my UEFA badges and stuff. So, yeah, all right, fine, I'll do it. And then I used to always see Maradona at the games, but I didn't know which one was his wife.
Yeah.
And I don't ask these questions. I just get on with the coaching. So when eventually she was there, I didn't know she didn't speak English. So I'm talking to everyone. And sometimes I'd say, if you don't understand my accent, or if you speak only Arabic, just let me know. It's very important. I can normally tell if someone's like in agreeing or nodding or dozing off. I can tell if they understand what I'm saying or not. With her, she was looking at me, but I could tell that she was more trying to lip read what I was saying that might help her understand what I was doing. And so that's why sometimes I use cones, I use a board, I use bibs, I use so many different things. And then someone said, by the way, it might be a bit tricky with this one. And I said, why? She said, oh, well, she's Argentinian. So what? I said, what's wrong with that? Well, Maradona's wife. And then I said, well, as long as he's not playing, I'm all right. What am I going to do? And so then I would spend more time with her because she played up front.
Yeah.
And because sometimes she doesn't understand the instructions, she might not pass. So rather than just ignoring her or not playing her, I thought I need to spend a bit of time explaining the whole point, because otherwise she would just feel like maybe a couple of the other coaches might have overlooked her or might have the player because of who her husband is. But for me, it was more like, listen, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt if you listen to what the plan is. And there was only so much I can do in terms of explaining. So then that's when I started showing her the iPads. And I remember showing her clips of Alexis Sanchez at the time in his good days. And then taking it a bit further back, Roberto Baggio, and saying like, look, he has the habit of being in space. It's just a habit. So you have to build up. You can't do that unless you check your shoulder. Because you're left-footed, they know which way you're going. So you need to be able to be in a position where you're facing the defense and you have two options to cut in or go out. But if you're on the touchline, then you're only going to go one way. So so imagine trying to explain this to Maradona's wife, doesn't speak English. It was interesting, but I would like to think from the way she responded that she got the message, because it was once she grabbed 4 goals in that one game. And I remember the team going, yeah, but she didn't do anything. She scored 4 goals. And they went, yeah, but she didn't touch the ball, but she touched it in the goal. And they were like, well, yeah, but apart from that, what'd she do? I don't care. I needed her to do that.
Yeah.
She's done that. We've won the game. That's all I want. Why overcomplicate? Why try and make, a Danny Ings act like he's Cristiano Ronaldo? If he's not, he still scores goals, but he's just not going to be someone who's going to bomb down the left wing, cutting top corner. It's not going to do that. So what's the point? So these are the kind of things I kind of learned through that experience.
It's your Ruud van Nistelrooy,
Yeah, I
tap
don't
in.
really want to believe that, but yeah, you're right. No, actually, you know what? To be fair, you're right. Your Van Nistelrooys, your
People Inzaghi.
Yeah, that's another good one. Another good. They kind of smelt it. They kind of smelt where to be. They just had this thing where, they knew that those were the dynamics. The thing that gets me, as a coach, it's the most frustrating thing is when you're only playing with one striker and he's out on the left wing, and then he crosses the ball and goes,
yeah, there's no one there.
oh. When that happens to me, I remember taking someone off once, and I won't mention the name, but I remember saying, every time you're outside the box, it's a foul. Did it in training, and said, if you're outside the box on the left part, in the 18, but on the edges of there, it's a free kick to the other team. If you do it 3 times, it's a penalty. And those training sessions were very competitive. If you lost that game, you had to do runs afterwards. And then he was like, and he had the game of his life and banged in all the goals. And then we went to the game, and he's pulled out to the left wing. And I've looked at him, and I thought, wow. I looked at my assistant at the time, and I went, Coco, I can't do this, man. And we were playing against a very, very good team. I can't do this. So I've given him 10 minutes, and it was roll on, roll off subs, because we were playing 7-a-side. Given him 10 minutes and just taking him off. And he did not like it. He was top scorer as well, and he did not like it. And I could tell if I looked his way, he would have said something, then I would have said something, and then that would have got messy. So I didn't bother. And then full time, we won the game, luckily, and he was like, "How'd you do that?" And I said, "We spent an hour and a half telling you, and based the whole session around your movement, and you pulled out to the left wing when you didn't have to be there." And he went, "Fair enough, coach." So sometimes, you go off on one, but yeah, that's a little experience.
Brilliant. Omar, you don't know it, right? But my first ever sort of interaction with you was when I saw you at the airport, actually. And I think you had just come back with the UAE women's team, and you were at a training camp somewhere.
Slovakia?
It might have been, yeah. I think it was that you were in Europe, and I'd arrived in the airport at the same time as you, and I saw the sort of the women's team sort of in their tracksuits and whatever at the baggage claim, and I looked over and I saw you. I didn't know who you were at the time, but it was this guy who just had this sort of fantastic banter and relationship with his team, and I didn't even know at the time that the UAE had a women's team, let alone I don't know, the younger women's teams or anything like that, or that they did camps in Europe or anything like this. So I thought, I've got to find out who the hell is this guy? What's he doing with this team? So I eventually found you on Instagram and followed you and, saw the sort of work that you were doing, with the team. So one, I just thought I'd let you know that that's where I first saw you. Secondly, sort of how was that sort of taking on that team and you went from Ghana and doing all that. You're then coaching an up and coming, team in the UAE that we might not hear much about, but, was it something special to be part of? Like, how was it, how just give us an experience of how was it coaching those girls?
Just goosebumps. You see it there. It was, look, some of those girls were like my daughters. And the beautiful thing about the under 17s at the time, or the under 15s at the time, was they've accepted someone again who's not Emirati. That's another thing, which is, and it's so nice that you've told me that, because I would have never known about that. And traveling with the younger group again, is you automatically play a certain role as a guardian, where you're walking with them through the airport. They were fighting when we left the UAE who's going to sit next to me, which was really funny, because the head coach at the time was like, you lot just get it together. And they're still kind of shuffling into that seat, sitting next to me. And with the culture change as well, and me being a male, I was very emotionally sensitive when it came down to those things, because I knew that they didn't grow up in Europe. Intentions, feelings, emotions. As a coach, sometimes you invest maybe too much into your players, and I'm definitely guilty of that with my players. Even now, when I see a player that I haven't seen for years, I just want to hug him, and we can't do that these days. So what that I used to coach against the UAE national team with all these teams that I was telling you, with the women's teams, for so many years, that one season the head coach reached out to me and said, listen, this needs to stop. We need to bring you on board. We had no right to be beating the national team before the national team. It was something that can't be done. They spend a lot of time training their players, and to have me on board was such an honor to be part of it. But for those players to trust me as well, that's another thing. Nowadays the football industry is so fickle, and I've been in situations before where maybe I've overachieved, and in the moment I haven't done that, I've been seen as probably the person responsible for the result. But because I trust my players, and I try not to get caught up with what other people say, even being an Arsenal fan, and Ted, you know this as well, you get caught up in the fan TV channels, you get caught up in the people that have their opinions on Arsenal. And I have one or two people that I know from that side, but I just won't engage in it. And I think with the UAE national team, before I joined them, there was a lot of stereotypes about the UAE national team. To be honest, it was one of the best experiences I've had, because when I came back from Ghana, I went into coaching kids. That's something I wanted to do. So I was the director of an academy, and I was working with a program where I was coaching really, really young kids from grassroots upwards. And then the UAE opportunity came, and I took it. But I knew there was going to be challenges. Culturally, I knew there was going to be challenges. I knew that I didn't know if they would accept me, which is another thing, because I realized for so many years I coached against them, and I knew them like the back of my hand, and that's why we probably won a few games we shouldn't have won, because I studied them quite well. But I didn't know how much fun I was going to have there, and I had a lot of fun. And in any national team or any club, there's always going to be politics.
Yeah.
But the good overshone any of that negativity for me, because the day I left them, the senior team were in tears. and they don't owe me anything. The younger ones almost just got used to me being around. And it's funny that the reason that was mentioned why I left was because I was getting married. And the funny thing is, my wife was getting dirty looks from about 22 players. So, and she doesn't speak Arabic. So when they were explaining to her, I said, in football, life is very short. And tonight was Omar's last session with us. We want to wish him good luck because he's getting married. And they've all just gone. Maria's there on the sideline, and she's smiling at them, and she goes, "Why are they looking at me like that?" And I said, "I'll tell you later. And then they said, "Coach, well, you're leaving us before the Asian qualifiers." And one of the hardest things about being a coach is when you can't tell the truth. And I think that was something for me to protect a lot of people. Is something for me that I couldn't do. And so you grow such a bond with these players. One of my players, in the time that I was there, she lost her father. And not saying I'm anywhere near that, but I felt so responsible for her happiness. Because when I watched her play football or train, there was happiness. And she had 2 ACLs. And I was with her through both of them, and got her playing again. So I've seen her really low, I've seen her really high. And then I turned around to Maria, my wife, and I said, "I love this girl." And Maria was like, "Wow." I said, "I want our daughter, God blesses us with one, just like her." And that's when Maria went, "Oh, okay, I get it." You see what I mean? So there's a lot of things that football gives you, but there's also a lot of things it takes away from you. And then now, fast forward, 3 years since, that young 15-year-old who would smile through the game, I can't hug her like I did when she was 15. So in my head, it's like, and that's why when I see Klopp and these guys hugging every player, I get it. Some people say it's a bit too much, but I get it. Well, I see some people, if like with Mourinho, for example, if you guys have watched the documentary, that if they're in the physio room, he's not talking to them. Whilst with me, I spend most of my time in the physio room to be able to make sure that player is involved with me, even when they're not. Because mentally, I need them to switch on when they're back with me. So you see, there's so much psychology behind these players. So you invest in that. And when you brought that up there, like about seeing me there, it's probably because I couldn't see what was happening outside of the camp. And I was so focused on the girls and the team that even the goalkeeping coach, who's like in his 70s, I would take him for a walk and he's still coaching. I'd say, "You know what, coach, I'm training. You want to come with me?" Expecting you to go, "No." He goes, "Yeah, let's go." And he'd come with me. So I couldn't see what was happening on the outside. And I think the players probably saw that more than the staff.
Yeah.
They felt it, they felt it. And at that age, I think you can feel a lot more.
You definitely could see it. I mean, when I think it, it was the baggage, even at the baggage belt of the sort of airport, you could see that you cared, that you were invested in these people just in that sort of 2 or 3 minutes that I caught that glimpse. So, definitely everything you've said kind of made sense in those 2 minutes. Where did they all go? So what's the next step for these girls, right? So you were coaching them up to a certain age. Do a lot of them end up graduating to the senior team? And then what happens at the senior team? Or what's the sort of process there?
So they've got different teams. They've got under 15s, under 17s, under 19s, and then senior.
Yeah.
And the idea was, and everyone has their own system, but the idea was that in every single team, there was a different coach. But the ultimate goal was to get them playing at a high level, whether that's at 17, 19 or senior, which was the Asian qualifiers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd be on camps at the headquarters, which is where we'd have to spend pretty much 10 days to 2 weeks every day with them. But initially, and I think a lot of things changed after I left in terms of structure. The headquarters is in Flowanij.
Yeah.
And that got moved to Abu Dhabi in terms of the practices.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure the direction that they were going at, or that they planned to go to, but I know the manager at the time, she had a lot of good ideas for everyone.
Mhm.
But I also feel, and this is just my opinion, I also feel that maybe the seniors weren't injected with the thought that they can make it, because
Right.
they've already played now, it's done, whatever, let's focus on the juniors, when there were some really talented seniors. And I think that's why I spent a lot of time with players after practice to try and help drill certain things that maybe they needed, which with other coaches, the goalkeeping coach would be there. You know, we'd obviously ask permission for the head coach if I could whip in maybe 60, 70 crosses for the striker to head or finish. But I think now there's this massive element of grey in their plans, because I don't even know what they're doing. And my wife sometimes goes and trains with Abu Dhabi Country Club because she plays for her national team, which is Pakistan. And she's there at the moment now for camp. But she asked me, do you think I should go train with them? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You know, go and train with them. And I've always tried to keep, maybe one of the very few that's kept a good relationship with you know, the management, let's say, at the FA, merely for the fact that I'm grateful for what they gave me rather than what they didn't. And I think at the moment now, hopefully, there will be plans for them to go up again. But that group that was the under-15s at that time are about 18, 19 now. And they're talented girls, you know, they got a lot of talent. So they might even, if they continue growing, then hopefully we might see one or two of them play outside of the UAE as well.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I mean, are they getting the opportunities, or will they get opportunities to go abroad?
I hope so. I know that North played in Egypt for a bit. I know that Noura and North went to Valencia to train with them, but I haven't seen any of them actually go out and play for clubs. Now, I think there's a couple of things with that. There's one thing is are they getting the opportunity? And second thing is, you know, are the scouts seeing them play? You know, are we doing enough as coaches to get footage of them out there? You know, nowadays, us three now, we can go on YouTube and we can find, you know, Clifford Abuaji's best skills or whatever, you know. So why isn't there clips of that? Is that the coach's responsibility? Is that the family's responsibility? Is that the player's responsibility? You know, all it takes now is one viral clip. I'm not even talking about something fancy. I'm talking about seeing someone train at a good level where, you know, why not? Why can't these players, and I've worked at universities, I've worked at academies, I've worked at national team level, why can't any of these players, you know, get the opportunity to go just trial out there, just go train with these clubs? Are we scared that maybe they will be away from their families? Maybe are we scared that maybe, you know, it's not being taken as a profession when it comes to the women's game? There's so many questions in that that I don't have the answer, but I do have the answer on their talent, and they are talented.
That's the thing where I was going to get to, is that I think the region as a whole, you know, culturally and women's football still might be quite a novel thing. You know, both from a societal level, but also from a family level, right? I mean, I know over in Egypt, they had an incredibly successful, you know, under-20 team. And then there was some controversy in the news that the Egyptian Football Federation decided to disband it, you know, because of some comments that had happened, rather than stick up for the girls. You know, so I think it might be an issue that goes across the Middle East. And I personally, this might be incredibly narrow-minded of me, but I personally would find it very surprising to see girls going abroad from the region at such a young age, you know, with what we know about family and culture and things like that out here. But if attitudes are changing, if it's allowing them to sort of pursue it as something beyond a hobby, you know, because we might think, the family might think, oh yeah, she's young, you know, she's only 15, she'll grow out of it when she gets older and gets married, you know. But I think as time goes on, we'll definitely see that attitude change, and the more players that can get out there and exposed, the better, you know.
one of the players I actually spoke to when I had her on the show. She's an Egyptian player that plays for Stoke, and she didn't make it out in Egypt as a national team player at the time.
Right.
Went to the Premier League, and good on her. Her name is Sarah Sam. Good on her for doing that. It takes a lot of courage to kind of step out of your comfort zone. So I think you're right. Though I think like we are, obviously it's unprecedented times and all that, but we are at a stage now where people are paying to watch women in stadiums.
Yeah.
The US teams we've seen, actually from this part of the world, the Jordanian team, the women's team is on another planet.
Yeah.
I've seen them play. They are brilliant. I've coached one or two of their players as well. Technically, they have a player called Mesa Jabara. I've seen this girl. Someone's crossed the ball, and instead of heading it, she's jumped up to chest it and bring it down and volley it. And I thought, oh, yes, take some of that. I like that. Let's do that again. Whipped in crosses for her to see if she'd do it again. She was smart enough to realize, all right, this time I'm not going to chest it. I'm going to head it across the goal. I'm going to use my left foot to volley it. So I think the talent exists. And I used to coach in the Ramadan tournaments here, where they'd fly in players from all around the world for these tournaments, and you'd get your girls from Lyon who'd come, and your girls from all these, and because they're getting paid, so they'd come out here and play against. And I'd see these players, and I think we're not that far off, you know. Well, I think they're used to, again, habit. It comes down to having something that's habitual, and I think they're used to habit, so that's their normal. But if we had the girls here have that normal, there'd be no difference. It'd be very minimal, you know, especially the talent that we have here.
That's good to hear. It's really good to hear. Hopefully we get to see them kind of in action, kind of in the future. But yeah, because they just don't get the airtime that the national team does. I mean, the football here doesn't really get that much airtime, not in English anyway. I know most of the conversation, 90% of the conversation happens in Arabic. But even then, I mean, you know, it's such a small piece of the conversation. And then you look at the women's game, it's an even smaller piece of that kind of, you know, that piece. So, you know, I think they do deserve, you know, the limelight, and it would be great to kind of follow these stories, especially with World Cups around the corner and whatnot. So, I don't know, fingers crossed, I guess. Fingers crossed. Yeah. It's
very, very close, I think, or it was very close when the World Cup happened and the Women's World Cup happened, because the attention went purely on just women. And that was a very, very good sign of it. Now, we also got to be very careful that we don't say, because she's a woman, she should be getting paid as much as a man. Talent is talent. I've said this always, and I've been someone who's been working on developing women's football since I moved out here in 2008. So if anyone's ever been their biggest support, it's me. But I'm very wary of saying, well, I think it's just time to just pay them, because at the end of the day, the talent's there, but are the companies, are the agencies, are these people doing enough to get them on the biggest stage? Because it's their jobs as well to do that. And then once they do that, then we're able to say that was just as good as the games I'm going to see, and I'm going to watch out for. And that's what's key about it. You know, having, you know, some of these players I've seen, the women's players. There was one girl called Fatiha who played for Algeria, and she played for me for years. If we put her on a pitch with us and we're playing, she will stand out as one of the best players. And not because we're awful, but because she's that good. So I would pay to watch her. I would pay to watch her. Do you remember Tony Yeboah's goal, the famous one?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, the first time I've watched her play, she's a right back, firstly. Okay? So she's a right back who has no license to have the ability, technically, physically, and mentally, as she has. The first time I ever saw her play, she played a 1-2 and hit a volley like Yeboah did, off the bar. It didn't go in though, which made it look even better. And I turned around and looked at the person next to me, and I was almost really annoyed I couldn't see a replay. And this was in Jebel Ali Shooting Club.
Yeah.
Watched that and I was thinking, who is she? Like, what was that? And she was so smart that when I coached in the Ramadan tournament before obviously lockdown a couple of years back, she was my captain. They said, who would you want? I said, I want Fatiha to come back. And they went, she's a little bit older now. I said, I don't care. And she scored again a couple of goals where, you know, I'll send you some of these clips that I had on my Instagram of that team I coached. And some of the one-touch football, some of the patterns of play is what you'd want to show the male players and say, this movement-wise, this is what I want. So those players deserve to get the credit, to get the, you know, the platform player. Absolutely. And that's when I would say they earned it. But don't just give it to them because it's a time where it's equal. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it.
I'd love to see a women's league, you know, with, you know, from the actual parent clubs that they've got out here, you know, like the actual men's clubs having women's teams and creating like a proper professional women's league. I mean, it could be well down the line, but something definitely to look at. I'd pay to watch that. You know, that would be.
It's funny you mentioned that. So Maria's set up something called the AWL.
Okay.
And wanted to do it the proper way, where she would have 5-a-side, 7-a-side leagues with, again, continuing the development of women's football, but somehow have the best players there. And it was going on every Monday and Wednesday. I think it was on before they put more restrictions now, but I think it's coming back very soon. Ted, are you in the UAE?
Yeah, in Dubai.
I think I'm in the UAE.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So maybe we'll get you guys to come down and have a watch of that then.
That would be brilliant. Where do they play?
They were playing at Ripe Market.
Oh, right. Okay. The police college.
That's it. They were playing.
Yeah. Nice.
And Maria, obviously, having played D1, I don't want to say soccer. It always does my head in, but D1 football in the US, and then coming out here, and she's obviously been in the game for a while. She set it up with 2 others. And it's really good. Some of the football is really good.
Brilliant. I would love to check that out.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. Let's do it.
Very
Awesome.
Very. Well, look, Omar, I'm just mindful of the time. Actually, we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. Initially, we said, it shouldn't be more than 40 minutes. But when you talk football, and I said to you, man, once we get started, I don't think we'll stop. But, I'm also mindful of the time. It's past midnight as well. And, you know, I just wanted to say, look, I think, you know, we really appreciate your time and you coming on to kind of chat about, you know, about life in football and just kind of life in general here in the UAE. So, mate, I don't know if, unless you want to keep it going, I think, you know, I don't know, Dar, do you have anything more to kind of add? I think.
Say, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, you know, and you know, I do follow you on Instagram, but it was good to sort of hear your story.
Yeah.
And yourself. And one thing I do want to check out is your book as well. You know, I've seen you promote that quite a bit, and all your chat right now of sort of mental readiness with the Ghana team and stuff like that. You know, I've heard from your Instagram sort of a little bit about what's in your book, so I'm definitely looking to check it out. So that is definitely something I'll keep an eye out for in the near future.
No, I appreciate you guys, you know, giving me the time to have this conversation, and I said this to you the other day. I said, for me, it's just having good conversation without having to put my wife about it, even though she's involved in football. You know, it's with people that love the game like I do, and I hope it adds value to, you know, your followers and your listeners as well.
Absolutely. I can't guarantee that you won't be on TikTok. I mean, we will probably be putting something on TikTok. So I'm not going to make you dance, but we'll put the video like up like we are now and see what kind of comments we get.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, and I said this the other day, I've got a little bit of rhythm, but I'm not going to take that to TikTok. That's for sure. Even though I'm only on TikTok Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays because that's when the show is on. But it's safe to say that you won't be seeing me in many dance videos. That's for sure.
Brilliant. I mean, we think the same, but who knows, mate? You know, in the near future, we'll see what happens.
I never thought we'd be on TikTok, and then all of a sudden we were, and then here we are. You know, so never say never.
Over 1 million views so far, and we've only been doing it since September. So you know, it's a good platform. So it's helped us out quite a lot, and you know, people start to, you know, a guy called my dad. He called my dad in the first month that we were doing TikTok. He said, I've just seen Dar online. Has he got some kind of football show or whatever? And then my dad rings me and goes, are you doing a football show or something on the internet? And that's when I know, I'm like, this TikTok thing, something's going on here, because someone saw something on TikTok and called my father, who then called me. So I'm like, something's working here. So it goes places. It definitely goes places. So, you know, I'm excited to see where it goes, and you know, I'm excited to see your show as well on TikTok too. So we'll get this up there and see where it goes.
Well, you have 1,000,001, you know, likes now in your arsenal. So I'll definitely follow you guys. I don't follow that many people, not because I'm like that, but because I don't know much about it. So I will definitely follow you too. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, mate. We look forward to the next conversation already. I think there's so much there to talk about, and I've got so many Arsenal questions that I need to, so many kind of Arsenal related things that I want to talk to you about. But obviously we've just, you know, I don't think the session would, you know, the session would allow for it, or the time would allow for it. But definitely we'll have to do this again in the not too distant future. And look, all the best, mate, with the show, with the coaching, with the badges, with mate, everything. It just sounds like like I said earlier, you've got so much going on. It's so good to hear about it. And mate, we'll look forward to talking again.
Absolutely. I think we're definitely gonna run this back, and like I said, I hope it's added more value. And that Arsenal show in itself is Dara, if you can put up with us for another hour, 20 minutes, I think that's going to be a top show.
You'll have to lend me a shirt.
Deal. I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, boys. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Best.
Have a great night, mate.
Bye.